Okay, today we're going to be talking about what it means when an ex is angry at you, even though that they're the ones who broke up with you. And if you stick around until the end of this video, I'm not only going to talk to you about why your ex is angry with you, even though the paradox is they're the ones who broke up with you, but I'm going to actually show you why I actually disagree with the 5 stages of grief, at least the order they are in. But first, if you haven't already, make sure you check out our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. It's a simple 2-minute quiz designed to tell you what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back if that's a route that you want to take. Even if it's not a route you want to take, you probably still want to take the quiz just so you know what kind of chance you have and you know what to do going forward. If this sounds like something that's interesting to you, perfect. All you have to do to take the quiz is simply look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on it. It's literally that easy. Okay, so there are really 4 things that I want to talk about today with regards to an ex being angry at you even though that they're the ones who broke up with you. Thing number 1, the 5 stages of grief. So if you're looking to understand why an ex is angry at you, even though that they're the ones who broke up with you, the first thing that would come to most people's minds is it's within the 5 stages of grief. You know, the Kubler-Ross grief cycle. The 5 stages are as follows. Stage number 1, denial. Stage number 2, anger. Sound familiar? Stage number 3, bargaining. Stage number 4, depression. And finally, stage number 5, acceptance. So the average person talking to you, trying to explain why an ex is angry at you, even though that they're the ones who broke up with you, would probably point to the 5 stages of grief and say, well, they're within the stage of anger. But I'm not really necessarily sure that I agree with that. Don't get me wrong, I think the 5 stages of grief are brilliant, but I'm a little skeptical about the nature in which we experience those stages. And that brings us to thing number 2 that I would like to discuss. Thing number 2, relapse mentality. Too often I think that people recommending the 5 stages of grief or talking about it haven't really experienced it themselves. When you have something that makes you grieve, you don't necessarily experience the 5 stages in the exact order. Sure, some people start out by denying what's happening to them. Some people go immediately to anger. Some people relapse. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, maybe they go through the 5 stages of grief, and even after they've accepted, they start feeling angry again. They start feeling denial again. I don't necessarily think the 5 stages are wrong. Not at all. I just think that the order in which you experience them is sort of up to chance. Everyone reacts differently to things that make them grieve. Some people will immediately jump to anger and skip denial. Some people will immediately jump to acceptance and then back to anger again. There's no really hard, fast rule by how we experience these things. And so I think when an ex is angry at you, they might necessarily not be going through the 5 stages of grief in the order that you would expect them to. They can be simply accepting the breakup at first and then angry that the breakup occurred next, even though that they're the ones who broke up with you. Thing number 3, change. All that you touch is change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. That's a quote from the book Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Now, what is that saying? Well, it's saying that change is a one gigantic constant in our lives, and quite often people don't really respond well to change. Now, the smart thing to do for most people is to embrace change, understanding that change is a daily part of our lives and that it will never go away. Yes, we often want to move forward in life, living the same lives that we always lived before because we're used to it, we're comfortable. But that's not really how life works. Change is a one constant force. And so how does this have anything to do with your ex? Well, even if your ex is the one to break up with you, change has occurred. And more often than not, when change has occurred, they act a little bit funny. Now, the irony here is that your ex was the one to institute the change. It's a paradox. They wanted to break up with you, therefore they are the ones who initiated the change. Why would they be upset with that change? Well, quite often I find that exes live in the now as opposed to the later. They think about, well, maybe if I change this right now, it will make me feel better. They don't really think about, well, maybe if I change this right now, it'll make me feel like crap later. And that brings me to the last thing that I'd like to talk about today. Thing number 4, the victim mentality. I started my website back in 2012. It's been almost a decade since I've been running ex-boyfriend recovery and ex-girlfriend recovery, and interestingly enough, one of the most alarming patterns that I've noticed over the years is the tendency that exes have to paint themselves as the victims, even though they're the ones who break up with you. Now, why is this? I mean, the paradox is they're the ones who broke up with you. Why would they even do it if they knew that they're going to be in pain later? Well, I think that's the key. Pain doesn't discriminate. Even if they're the ones who broke up with you, they'll still feel pain. They'll still feel those 5 stages of grief, maybe not necessarily in the order that we've laid them out or that is the universally accepted way of being laid out. They'll still feel pain, and you're the source of their pain. Therefore, they're the victim. You're the ones making them feel this way when they just need to hold a mirror up and realize they're the ones making them feel this way. This paints them in the victim mentality. They think you're the one to wrong them. That's why they're angry at you. That's why they're saying these mean things to you. Maybe it's not the only reason that they're saying the mean things to you. Maybe it's not the only reason that they're angry at you. But I think it's a pretty big one, and one that's often overlooked by many of my peers. Now here's the great news. If they're angry at you, it's not that far of a leap for them to start regretting their decision. Eventually, they will hold a mirror up to themselves. They will realize deep down they are the source of their pain. That's when regret comes into play. They'll start regretting why they broke up with you. Now, I can't guarantee that's going to happen in your specific situation, but what I can guarantee is that if you work internally, if you work to rebuild your life in the image that you want it to be rebuilt in, you're going to be in a much better place when they do start to regret their decision to break up with you. Hey, thanks for getting to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please do not hesitate to subscribe or even like the video. Oh yeah, and if you haven't already, make sure you take the X Recovery Chances quiz. It's a simple 2-minute quiz designed to tell you what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. Again, it's really not going to take you very long at all, and taking the quiz is super easy. If you're watching this video on YouTube, just look no further than the description link on the YouTube video below. Click on the link and we will hook you up. See you guys later.